First contact through fire. The Zarian defense minister's hologram flickered as she delivered her report, her crystalline features distorted by interference from the ongoing attack. They've breached our outer defense grid. Our civilian ships. They're targeting our civilian ships. Admiral Sarah Chen stood motionless in the United Earth Defense Force Command Center, her dark eyes fixed on the tactical display showing the massacre unfolding 20 light-years from Earth. The Zarian distress signal had reached them just hours ago. Their first contact with an alien civilization coming in the form of a desperate plea for help. 3,000 ships lost in the last solar day. The Zarian minister continued, her voice carrying the weight of those deaths. The Blackcrest pirates. They knew exactly when to strike. Knew our defense platforms were undergoing maintenance cycles. We're a peaceful species, Admiral. We never needed weapons before this. Sarah's fingers traced the edge of her command console, feeling the familiar texture of human engineering. For centuries, humanity had prepared for first contact, building their fleets in secret, hardening their defenses, always wondering if they would meet friends or enemies among the stars. They never imagined they would encounter both in the same day. Minister, Sarah's voice was steady, carrying the authority of someone who had trained her entire life for this moment. The UEDF Second Fleet is ready to assist. We can reach your position in 18 hours using our FTL drives. But I need to be clear, if we intervene, we'll be revealing humanity's existence to the galaxy at large. My superiors need to know that you understand the implications. The Zarian minister's hologram stabilized, showing the alien's surprise at Sarah's words. You're willing to help, but you don't even know us. We have nothing to offer in return except our gratitude. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Minister, humanity has a long history of standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves. Sometimes that's all the reason we need. The next few hours were a blur of activity as the Second Fleet prepared for deployment. 50 warships, each a masterpiece of human engineering, powered up their antimatter cores. They were vessels built to withstand the crushing pressures of deep space, designed by a species that had evolved on a world 3 times the gravity of most habitable planets. Captain James Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UEDF Hyperion, watching his crew perform their final checks. As Sarah's second-in-command, he would be leading the vanguard of their response force. All ships report ready, Admiral, he announced over the quantum comm. Just waiting for your word. Sarah took one last look at the tactical display, watching another cluster of Zarian civilian ships wink out of existence. The Blackcrest pirates had no idea what was coming for them. Humanity had spent generations preparing for threats from the stars, honing their technology and their resolve. Now they would show the galaxy why Earth was classified as a death world by those few alien probes that had discovered it. All ships, execute jump sequence, Sarah commanded. Let's show these pirates what happens when they prey on the innocent. The fleet vanished in a series of perfectly coordinated FTL jumps, leaving behind an Earth that would never be the same. Humanity was about to announce its presence to the galaxy not with words of peace or displays of technology, but with an act of protection that would echo across the stars for generations to come. As they traveled through FTL, Sarah reviewed the Zarian data one final time. The pirates had chosen their target well. The Zarians were an advanced civilization that had evolved on a low-gravity world, focusing their development on art, science, and peaceful exploration. Their ships were marvels of engineering, but they were designed for research and commerce, not combat. The pirates, on the other hand, were a coalition of outcasts from various species who had turned to raiding the prosperous trade routes of the Galactic arm. They had never encountered serious military resistance before. They were about to learn why evolution on a high-gravity death world produced not just stronger bodies, but more resilient souls. 5 minutes to reversion, Rodriguez announced. Sarah straightened her uniform and opened a channel to the fleet. All hands, this is Admiral Chen. In a few minutes, we're going to make history, not just as the first humans to engage in combat with alien forces, but as the first humans to protect another species. Remember your training. Remember why we're here. Let's show the galaxy what humanity stands for. The fleet dropped out of FTL in attack formation, their sensors immediately painting a tactical picture of chaos. Hundreds of sleek Zerian ships were trying to escape the gravity well of their colony world, while dark shapes of pirate vessels picked them off one by one. The pirates' weapons were designed to disable and board their targets. They never expected to face an enemy that had spent centuries preparing for war. All ships, weapons free, Sarah commanded. Protect those civilians. The battle that followed would be remembered for centuries as humanity's debut on the galactic stage. The pirates never stood a chance against ships designed to withstand the pressures of a Deathworld's gravity, crews trained to fight in conditions that would crush most species, and weapons developed by a civilization that had never forgotten how to defend itself. In the end, it wasn't just a victory, it was a statement. Humanity had arrived, and they had chosen to make their presence known not through conquest or intimidation, but through an act of protection. As the last pirate ship fled or surrendered, Sarah opened a channel to the Zerian minister. Your people are safe, minister, and if you'll have us, Earth would be honored to help you rebuild. The galaxy would never be the same. The weight of steel, the aftermath of battle painted an eerie tableau against the violet skies of the Zerian colony. Debris from destroyed pirate vessels drifted alongside the elegant shapes of damaged Zerian ships, while human vessels moved among them like dark guardians, their heavy armor reflecting starlight. On the bridge of the UEDF Hyperion, Captain Rodriguez watched as rescue shuttles deployed from his ship's massive hangar base. The Zerian survivors were about to have their first close encounter with humans, and he couldn't help but wonder how they would react to their savior's appearance. Medical teams report ready, his XO announced, though they're still adjusting to the Zerians' biological readings. Their bone density is about a quarter of ours. Rodriguez nodded, remembering his briefing on Zerian physiology. They were a graceful species, evolved for a world with 1/3 Earth's gravity. Their bodies were almost crystalline in appearance, with translucent skin that reflected light in mesmerizing patterns. Next to them, humans must look like giants carved from stone. A notification chimed on his console. Admiral Chen was hailing from the flagship. Captain, status report. Rescue operations proceeding smoothly, Admiral. The Zerians are surprised by our appearance, but grateful for the help. Their medical technology is actually quite advanced, which is helping with treating their wounded. No signs of any remaining pirate vessels in the system. Good. Keep me updated on any developments. I'm coordinating with Minister Lyra on establishing a defensive perimeter. Chen out. As the communication ended, Rodriguez turned his attention back to the rescue efforts. Through the Hyperion's observation cameras, he could see the first meetings between humans and Zerians. The aliens' expressions of surprise were clear even across species boundaries. They simply hadn't expected their rescuers to be so physically imposing. A group of human Marines, each standing nearly twice the height of the Zerians, was helping evacuate a damaged civilian transport. Their powered armor, designed to compensate for high-gravity environments, made them look even more formidable. Yet they moved with careful precision, mindful of their strength as they assisted the smaller aliens. Sir, his sensor officer called out, we're picking up some unusual readings from the colony surface. There's some kind of energy signature that doesn't match either Zerian or pirate technology. Rodriguez frowned. Can you be more specific? It's similar to the weapons the pirates were using, but much more powerful, I think. The officer's eyes widened. Sir, it's powering up. All hands, battle stations. Rodriguez barked. Get our people back on board now. Alert the Admiral. The energy signature erupted from the planet's surface, a massive particle beam that cut through space like a blade of light. It struck one of the Zerian rescue ships, vaporizing it instantly. The pirates had left behind a surprise. Multiple signatures detected. The sensor officer shouted. Their planetary defense weapons, reprogrammed to target anything in orbit. Rodriguez's training took over. Launch countermeasures. Get our ships between those beams and the civilian vessels. Our armor can take it. The next few minutes were chaos as the human fleet demonstrated exactly why they had evolved on a high-gravity death world. Their ships, built to withstand pressures that would crush most alien vessels, absorbed hits that would have destroyed anything else in space. The reinforced hulls, designed to survive the crushing depths of gas giants, held firm against weapons that could pierce standard ship armor like paper. Admiral Chen to all vessels. Sarah's voice cut through the chaos. Form up on these coordinates. Captain Rodriguez, take the Hyperion and 2 escorts into the atmosphere. Find those weapons and shut them down. Understood. Admiral. Hyperion, plotting descent course. What followed was something the Zarians had never seen before. Warships entering their atmosphere at combat speed. The Hyperion's hull glowed red-hot as it pushed through the upper atmosphere, its massive engines fighting against gravity with raw power. To the watching Zarians, it must have looked like falling stars had come to their defense. The planetary defense platforms were easy to spot, massive cannons rising from hidden bunkers, their barrels tracking targets in orbit. The pirates had reprogrammed them as a final act of spite, ensuring that even in defeat, they would cause more destruction. Target solutions locked. Rodriguez's weapons officer reported. Ready on your order. Fire. The Hyperion's main gun spoke, each shot precisely calculated to disable rather than destroy. The defense platforms fell silent one by one, their control systems severed by surgical strikes from a ship that could operate in conditions that would crush most species. As the last platform fell silent, Rodriguez received another transmission from Admiral Chen. Well done, Captain. The Zarian minister wants to speak with us both. It seems our display of force has caught the attention of more than just the locals. We're picking up quantum communications from at least 3 other species in nearby systems. Word of humanity's arrival is spreading. Rodriguez looked out at the Zarian colony below, its crystal spires reflecting the light of its sun. They had come here to protect one species, but in doing so, they had announced humanity's presence to the galaxy at large. There would be no going back now. Understood, Admiral. Setting course for your position. He paused, then added, Do you think they're ready for us? That's not the question, Captain, Sarah replied, a hint of steel in her voice. The question is, are we ready for them? Because after today, every species in this arm of the galaxy is going to know that humanity exists, and they're going to know exactly what we're capable of. The Hyperion rose from the atmosphere, its dark hull once again reflecting starlight. Below, the Zarians were already beginning to rebuild, now under the protection of ships that had been forged in the fires of a death world. Humanity had made its choice. They would be guardians, not conquerors. The weight of that decision, like the weight of steel and duty, would shape the future of both species. Shields of the weak. The diplomatic chamber aboard the UEDF flagship hummed with quiet energy as representatives from 3 different alien species gathered to meet humanity's leaders. Admiral Chen stood at the center of the human delegation, her composure steady despite the historic nature of the moment. Beside her, Captain Rodriguez couldn't help but notice how their visitors kept their distance, their body language betraying a mixture of awe and apprehension. Minister Lyra of the Zarians stepped forward, her crystalline form catching the light. My people owe you a debt we can never repay. But I must ask, why did you choose to reveal yourselves for us? You could have remained hidden, safe in your section of space. Before Sarah could answer, another alien spoke up. Ambassador Kex of the Volari Confederation, a species that resembled terrestrial mantids. Indeed, our long-range sensors detected your battle. The power readings from your ships, they exceed anything in our databases. You could have conquered this entire sector instead of defending it. Sarah shared a glance with Rodriguez before responding. Perhaps that's exactly why we chose to help. Power isn't just about what you can take. It's about what you can protect. The third alien representative, a being of shifting plasma contained within an environmental suit, moved closer. I am Observer X-427 of the Collective. We have analyzed your combat capabilities. Your species evolved in conditions that would crush most sentient life. By all logical calculations, you should be aggressive conquerors. Yet you choose to be defenders. This defies our predictive models. Rodriguez stepped forward, his voice firm but gentle. Maybe your models need updating. Humanity learned long ago that true strength isn't about domination. On Earth, our strongest have always had a duty to protect those who needed help. The chamber fell silent as the aliens processed this. Through the viewport behind them, they could see the ongoing rescue operations. Human ships providing aid to damaged Zerian vessels, their powerful hulls now serving as mobile repair stations. But surely you must want something in return, Ambassador Kex insisted. No species acts without self-interest. Sarah smiled. We want what we've always wanted, to be part of something larger than ourselves. We spent centuries wondering if we were alone in the universe, preparing for either friendship or war. Now we know there's a whole galaxy of civilizations out there, each with their own strengths and perspectives. And weaknesses, Observer X-427 added. The Blackcrest pirates targeted the Zerians precisely because they lacked military strength. They will not be the last predators to seek easy prey. Then perhaps it's time for a change, Sarah declared. Humanity is willing to offer our protection to peaceful species who need it, not as conquerors or rulers, but as allies. The impact of her words rippled through the chamber. Minister Lyra's crystalline form sparkled with what seemed to be hope. You would do this. Become guardians of peace. We've been preparing for something like this for generations, Rodriguez explained. Our ships, our technology, they weren't built just for war. They were built to withstand anything the universe could throw at us, so we could help others do the same. Ambassador Kex's antennae twitched thoughtfully. The Valari Confederation has long advocated for a mutual defense pact among peaceful species, but we lacked the military strength to make it viable. With humanity's capabilities, it could work. Observer X-427 finished. The Collective's predictive models show a 78.3% reduction in piracy and aggressive expansion if humanity serves as a deterrent force. Sarah moved to the viewport, watching as another group of rescued Zerians was brought aboard. Then let's make it official. Earth is ready to take its place in the galactic community. Not as conquerors, not as victims, but as protectors. The next several hours were spent in detailed discussions. The aliens were fascinated by humanity's history, particularly how a species that evolved in such harsh conditions had developed such a strong ethical framework. Rodriguez found himself explaining concepts like, with great power comes great responsibility, to beings who had evolved under completely different circumstances. Your species is unique, Minister Lyra observed. You have the strength to dominate, yet you choose to protect. The wisdom to advance technologically, yet you maintain your commitment to ethics. Perhaps this is why you appeared exactly when we needed you. As the diplomatic session concluded, Sarah received an urgent communication from Earth. More distress calls had been detected. It seemed word of humanity's intervention had inspired other threatened species to ask for help. The galaxy was changing, and humanity's revelation of itself had been the catalyst. Captain, Sarah turned to Rodriguez, prepare the fleet for deployment. We have more work to do. The shields are rising, Observer X-427 commented. The galaxy will never be the same. Looking out at the stars, Sarah knew the Observer was right. Humanity had chosen its path. They would be the shields of the weak, the protectors of peace. It wouldn't be easy, but then again, nothing worth doing ever was. As the alien representatives departed, Rodriguez approached Sarah. Admiral, do you think we're ready for this responsibility? Protecting an entire galaxy. Sarah watched as the last shuttle of rescued Zerians docked safely. We've been ready for centuries, Captain. We just didn't know it. All those years preparing for threats from the stars. Turns out, we were really preparing to be the thing that threats fear. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if they too knew that a new era had begun. Humanity had stepped onto the galactic stage, not with conquest or fear, but with an outstretched hand of protection. The Deathworlders had become the galaxy's guardians, and the universe would never be quite the same again. Ripples across the stars. Deep within the Hyperion's tactical center, Captain Rodriguez studied the holographic display with growing concern. Dozens of distress signals flashed across the map of known space, each representing another civilization asking for humanity's protection. In the 2 weeks since their intervention at the Zarian colony, the galaxy had erupted with activity. Another request from the Meridian Cluster, his communications officer reported. 3 separate species there are seeking defensive agreements, and the collective's deep space monitors have detected unusual movement patterns among several traditionally aggressive species. Rodriguez rubbed his temples. They're testing us, trying to figure out our capabilities and commitment. He turned as Admiral Chen entered the room, her expression serious. Admiral, the situation is escalating faster than we anticipated. Sarah nodded, studying the tactical display. Earth Command is mobilizing additional fleets, but we need to be strategic about this. We can't be everywhere at once. The door chimed, and Minister Lyra entered, her crystalline form now a familiar sight aboard human vessels. Perhaps I can help with that. The Zarian Quantum Communication Network spans 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. We could integrate your fleet coordination systems with ours, effectively multiplying your response capability. Before either human could respond, another alert flashed on the display. This one was different. A priority signal from the Volari Confederation. Ambassador Kex's image appeared, his mantis-like features tight with tension. Admiral Chen, we have a situation. The Kraxan Empire has launched an attack on 3 peaceful systems near their territory. They're claiming they need to establish security in response to humanity's emergence. Sarah's jaw tightened. This was exactly what they had feared, their presence causing some species to accelerate their aggressive plans before humanity could establish its protective network. Send me the coordinates. Captain, prepare the fleet for immediate deployment. Wait, Lyra interrupted. Look at these energy readings from the Kraxan fleet. She manipulated the display, highlighting specific patterns. They're similar to the pirate weapons we encountered, but much more sophisticated. I don't think that's a coincidence. Rodriguez leaned forward, his military training kicking in. The pirates were testing our capabilities. They were scouts for the Kraxan Empire, which means the Empire knows exactly what our ships can withstand. Sarah concluded. They've modified their weapons accordingly. This isn't just an opportunistic attack. It's a calculated challenge to human protection. The tactical center hummed with activity as battle plans were formulated. Through the quantum network, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The Kraxan Empire's attack had triggered a cascade of responses from other species. Some were rushing to align themselves with humanity, while others were making their own moves for territory and influence. We're receiving transmissions from 17 different species, the communications officer announced. They're all watching to see how we respond to this. Our actions here will define humanity's role in galactic politics. Sarah straightened her uniform, her decision made. Then let's make our position crystal clear. Captain, signal all combat-ready ships in the sector. We're going to show the Kraxan Empire exactly why challenging Earth's protection was a mistake. The next few hours were a blur of preparation. The UEDF fleet, now integrated with Zarian communication systems, coordinated with local defense forces across 3 star systems. Rodriguez marveled at how quickly their allies had adapted to working with humans, despite their physical and technological differences. Admiral, Lyra spoke up, her voice carrying an unusual edge. There's something else you should know. Our archaeologists have been studying records of the Kraxan Empire. They've existed for far longer than anyone realized, operating from the shadows, using proxy forces like the pirates to test and weaken potential rivals. They've been playing a long game, Sarah realized, and our arrival forced them to show their hand. The tactical display updated with new information from Volare scout ships. The Galaxy fleet was massive, with ships unlike anything they'd encountered before. Dark, angular vessels that seemed to absorb light itself, bristling with weapons designed specifically to counter human technology. They've been preparing for something like us, Rodriguez observed. A species from a high-gravity world with advanced technology. They must have encountered others before. Or they feared they would, Sarah added, which means they've had time to develop countermeasures. This won't be like the pirate battle. Minister Lyra's crystalline form pulsed with concern. Perhaps we should wait for reinforcements from Earth. The Galaxy fleet significantly outnumbers your forces. Sarah shook her head, a grim smile on her face. That's exactly what they expect. They think they understand humanity because they've studied our capabilities. But they've missed something fundamental about our species. What's that? Lyra asked. We don't just fight harder when we're outnumbered, Rodriguez answered, understanding dawning in his eyes. We fight smarter. Earth's history is full of battles won not through superior numbers or technology, but through innovation and adaptation. The tactical display chimed again as the final battle plans were distributed through the quantum network. Across 3 star systems, human ships moved into position alongside their new allies. The Zarians provided sensor coverage with their advanced scanning technology, while Volare strike craft prepared for hit-and-run attacks. The galaxy is watching, Sarah addressed her fleet. They're about to learn that humanity's strength isn't just in our ships or our technology. It's in our ability to work together, to protect those who need protection, and to face down any threat to peace among the stars. As the human fleet prepared for battle, the ripples of their arrival continued to spread across the galaxy. In countless alien observation posts and command centers, beings of all species watched and waited. The next few hours would determine not just the outcome of a battle, but the future of galactic civilization itself. The Deathworlders were about to show the galaxy that they weren't just powerful, they were transformative. And no empire, no matter how ancient or prepared, could stop the change they represented. The price of peace. The battle that would decide the galaxy's future began not with a massive exchange of fire, but with silence. The human fleet, alongside their alien allies, had executed a precision FTL jump that placed them directly within the Galaxy Empire's formation. It was a maneuver that should have been impossible. The gravitational stresses alone would tear most ships apart. All ships, execute plan Thermopyle. Admiral Chen's voice carried across the quantum network. The name was fitting. Like the ancient Spartans, they were about to demonstrate how a smaller force could change history. Captain Rodriguez watched from the Hyperion's bridge as the human fleet split into predetermined groups, each moving with perfect coordination thanks to the integrated Zarian communication systems. The Galaxy ships, massive dark shapes against the stars, began to react to their presence. Enemy vessels powering up their primary weapons, his tactical officer reported. Energy signatures match our predictions. They're using gravitational shear weapons. Just as we expected, Sarah's voice came through. They think they know our weakness because we come from a high-gravity world. Time to show them how wrong they are. The Galaxy weapons fired, sending rippling waves of distorted space-time toward the human ships. In any other fleet, it would have been devastating. The gravity waves would have torn their hulls apart. But humanity had been born in gravity's grip, and they had mastered it long ago. The human ships rolled into the attack, their inertial compensation systems, designed for the crushing pressures of gas giants, easily handling the gravitational assault. Meanwhile, Volare strike craft darted between the larger vessels, their superior maneuverability making them nearly impossible to target. Phase 1 complete, Rodriguez announced as his ship executed a perfect attack run. Moving to Phase 2. The true genius of humanity's battle plan became apparent as the Kraxan fleet attempted to regroup. The human ships weren't just fighting. They were herding the enemy vessels into precise positions, using the very gravitational weapons meant to destroy them as a means of controlling the battlefield. Minister Lyra, watching from a secure command center, suddenly understood. The gravity waves, you're using them to create a containment field. Exactly, Sarah confirmed. Captain, signal the Zarian sensor network. Time for Phase 3. The Zarian quantum network came alive, their advanced sensors mapping every fluctuation in spacetime around the battlefield. Data flowed through the integrated systems, allowing the human ships to navigate the growing gravitational maze with impossible precision. The Kraxan Empire had spent centuries preparing for a confrontation with a high-gravity species. They had developed weapons specifically designed to turn such a species' own evolutionary adaptations against them. What they hadn't counted on was humanity's greatest strength, the ability to turn apparent weaknesses into advantages. Kraxan fleet is completely enclosed, Rodriguez reported. Their own gravity weapons have created a zone of distorted spacetime. They can't escape without tearing their ships apart. Through the quantum network, Ambassador Kex's voice crackled with excitement. Remarkable. You've turned their trap inside out. The Kraxan flagship, a massive vessel that seemed to devour light itself, finally opened communications. The being that appeared on their screens was unlike anything they had seen. A mass of writhing tentacles and sharp angles that seemed to exist in more dimensions than should be possible. Impossible, the Kraxan Emperor's words translated through their systems. Our calculations were perfect. Your species should not be able to resist our gravitational weapons. Sarah's response was calm but firm. Your mistake was thinking that just because we evolved on a high-gravity world, gravity itself was our weakness. Humanity doesn't just survive against natural forces. We learn to work with them, to understand them, to make them our allies rather than our enemies. You don't understand what you're interfering with, the Emperor snarled. We have guided galactic evolution for millennia, ensuring that no species becomes too powerful. Balance must be maintained. No, Sarah countered. You've maintained your own power by keeping others weak. That ends today. Surrender your fleet, or we'll be forced to demonstrate just how well we understand gravitational forces. The Emperor's image flickered as another voice cut in. Observer X427 of the collective. Our analysis is complete. The humans have created a recursive gravitational field using the Kraxan's own weapons. They can collapse it at will, creating a localized space-time anomaly that would destroy the entire Kraxan fleet. The silence that followed was deafening. The Kraxan Empire had spent centuries as the hidden masters of the galaxy, using fear and carefully measured shows of force to maintain their dominion. Now they faced a species that had not only survived their best weapons, but had turned them into tools of containment rather than destruction. The choice is yours, Sarah continued. But know this, humanity's protection of peaceful species isn't negotiable. We'll use force if we must, but we'd rather have you as allies than enemies. The Kraxan Emperor's form seemed to collapse in on itself slightly. You would show mercy, even knowing what we attempted. Especially knowing that, Rodriguez interjected. Because that's what truly powerful species do. They protect, they teach, they offer chances for peace rather than demanding submission. The surrender of the Kraxan fleet marked more than just the end of a battle. It was the beginning of a new era in galactic history. As news spread through the quantum networks, species across the galaxy began to understand what humanity truly represented, not just physical strength or technological advancement, but a fundamental shift in how power could be wielded. In the days that followed, the UEDF established the Galactic Protection Initiative. The program would coordinate the defense of peaceful species while helping develop their own protective capabilities. The Kraxan Empire, under close supervision, began the long process of transformation from hidden manipulators to open participants in galactic society. Admiral Chen stood in the diplomatic chamber once again, But this time she was addressing representatives from over 30 species. Earth's emergence into the galactic community came with a price. The price of responsibility. We choose to pay that price, not because it's easy, but because it's right. The galaxy doesn't need hidden masters or enforced weakness. It needs cooperation, understanding, and the courage to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The price of peace, they had learned, wasn't measured in ships or weapons or lives lost. It was measured in the willingness to stand up for others, to offer mercy even to enemies, and to use power not for dominion but for protection. As the Hyperion prepared to return to Earth for debriefing, Captain Rodriguez found Admiral Chen in the observation deck, watching the stars. "Do you think we've changed things too much?" he asked. The galaxy's power structure had been stable for centuries. Sarah smiled, her eyes on the distant lights of alien worlds. "Sometimes stability isn't progress, James. We didn't just show the galaxy humanity's strength today. We showed them humanity's heart. And in the end, that might be our greatest contribution of all." The stars seemed to shine brighter as the fleet began their journey home, carrying with them the hopes of countless species and the promise of a new kind of peace, one protected not by fear or domination, but by the strength and wisdom of a species that had learned to turn its greatest challenges into its greatest gifts.